Today we are going to talk about how to join the hexagon shapes so that we can put together our Buzzing Beehive blanket. To do this, we're going to look at this chart for a minute so that you can understand exactly where we're going to start. In order to do these hexagon shaped joins, we will first join all of our hexagon pieces in a row going vertical, and then after we've joined all the vertical pieces, then we will connect them going the horizontal way. So as you can see, as I've gotten started here, this is my right edge, and I connected all of these pieces vertically, and then I joined them to the next section I already had done pieced vertically together. And that's how we will construct this. So to get started here, I want to show you the next row that I'm working on. I started with the bottom piece, which on this chart would be this piece right here, and I joined it to the one right above it, which is this hexagon shape right here. And now I'm going to do the next piece above that, and I'll keep working vertical until I've got the entire vertical strip done. So here's how we join. I've seen lots of different methods out there, and there are several different ways to slip stitch these together. I think my method is done a little bit differently, and the reason why is I like when the join is very flat, as in it's not curving up on one side of that join. So I found a unique way to do that. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to place our 14 stitches together. We have 14 here and 14 here. But when we join, just so there's less gaps in this area where it will all join together, 4 pieces will kind of come together. Actually it's 3 pieces, sorry. I don't like to have any gaps. So when I join 14, I'm actually going to go one more this way and one more this way. So I'm technically going to be working in 16 stitches just to kind of overlap. We will be overlapping certain spaces when we come to join them together. Now, when we did our hexagons, we did a slip stitch around the entire hexagon to finish it, and we will only be working in the back loops of these back loops, or like as you turn them, it's always the back loops, but of each one of these. But the loops that will be touching the closest together is an easier way to remember it. So this would be my first stitch of 14, and on this side this would be my first stitch of 14. But like I said, we're going to go one more on the outside so that we have there kind of an overlap. So I've put my hook through the back loops of one stitch over from the first, and I'm going to go ahead and join the yarn through those back loops. So we're just going to pull up through that back loop, through the other back loop to join the yarn. Then I'm going to take my leading yarn, the yarn we're going to be working with, and kind of pull it underneath. It's going to sit kind of underneath and behind these 2 pieces. This is my tail end, and we'll weave that in later. Now to go to the next piece, I'm going to go through the top back loop and then the bottom back loop of these pieces. So I've gone through this back loop first, and then I went through this back loop, and then I'm going to pull up from underneath my leading yarn to slip stitch through all of these. Kind of tighten that a little bit. Now, if I were to continue to work the way that we just did, where I would go through the top first and then the bottom, we would end up having this slip stitch going across, kind of angling down a bit. It would kind of roll a little bit down. To prevent that rolling, I alternate which side I go through with each slip stitch. So since I went through the top side first last time, this time I'm going to go through the back loop on the bottom, then through the back loop on the top, and then I'm going to slip stitch through. And then the next one I'll go through the top first, then the bottom, and slip stitch by grabbing that yarn from underneath. So if you pay attention, one of your loops here, as you're looking at it from the side, will be on top of, it almost sits on top of the other, and that's why alternating which one we go through first makes it so that instead of rolling one way or the other, it stays more flat to our piece, which means any angle our blanket's sitting at, our joining slip stitch line will look really clean and really nice. So bottom one first, then top one. Top one first, then bottom one, working in those back loops only. And this might take a minute to get used to because I think this is a bit different than a lot of the joins that I've seen online. And so just be patient with yourself. Feel free to take your time getting through those loops until it feels like a comfortable motion. I also want to mention I did block these, even though they still curl a little bit. I did do some light blocking with these before I got started, just to kind of help me out so I didn't have such an aggressive curl to deal with as I'm trying to join these together. All right, now that we've gone, I need to do bottom first. Now that we've gone through the 14 stitches, plus we joined the one extra on the right side of this, now we're going to go one extra. And we will still work through both of these slips, these back loops when we join to the other side. They'll still be visible, but this way it just kind of gives an extra little grab to where these corners are all going to fit together. And now I just simply pull the yarn, fasten off, and then grab my next piece and do the exact same thing, working all the way up this row. Now that we have our vertical row joined at all these points, we're going to go ahead and join that vertical row to the one next to it. And we're going to be doing this in a similar way. We're going to take our yarn, and we're going to start at this bottom edge. We're going to be working in those back loops only, the loops that are closest to each other. And we're going to start one in on this side, one more stitch than necessary, just because it gives a tighter join. So if I were to stick these together, lining up what stitches I'm going to be looping together, we're just going to go one extra, which seems a bit aggressive, but I promise it's a better way to join, because it kind of overlaps some of your joining and makes those seams a bit more seamless. Even though we are trying to create honeycomb seams, we do want the joins not to have gaps and holes. So once we join and we pull our yarn through those two back loops, I like to once again take this yarn and just slip it kind of under and back of these pieces. I'm going to go ahead and turn this where it's a little bit more comfortable for me to work with. And then we're going to get started. We're going to do the same thing we did on the other joins, and we're just going to work our way zigzagging up this entire piece. And you will also notice that I have not weaved in the ends yet from doing the previous join step. And the reason being is because these ends can actually be really helpful in making sure that we have clean finishes the entire way up. So I just kind of tuck them away and ignore them as we do this and make sure that they just stay on the back side of the work. So we're going to start by simply doing what we did before, where we go through the back loop of the bottom, then the top, pull through those, slip stitch through those back loops, and then we'll just do the opposite. We'll go through the top, then the bottom of the back loop, then the bottom and top back loop, grab that yarn and pull it through. And it is a bit of a different way to stitch in because I feel like we're almost stitching down into something instead of holding it and doing it across. But I love the look of this finish. I feel like it's a bit cleaner without any curling of the stitches on top. And so as you can see, that's all we're going to be doing is going through the top loop, then the bottom back loop, slip stitch those together, go through the bottom loop, then the top loop, slip stitch those together, and we'll do that all the way zigzagging to the top of the blanket until we're done with that. And everything from here on out is just simply a repeat of that. Join your rows vertically, doing these pieces and leaving your tails, and then when you get to some of these edges that they join, and you've got your tail on the back side. If there is any gaps in this join at all, that's a perfect time to take your tail and just tighten that up so that it's a nice clean join. And I really like by alternating going through which back loop we go through first each time, we get a flatter, nice look here without any like top rolling slip stitches, and it's just very clean. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.